start off, let's go over the panels and each one of the fabrics that you can choose to go with them. First, we have the front and back panel. That's going to be your lightest, most stretchy fabric. You could use a spandex for this, or I've chosen in the video to use a very light faux leather. It's got a kind of sheen on the front, but it's very, very stretchy. And then for the corset fly panel, the waistband, and the belt loops, you're going to want to use a heavier, still quite stretchy fabric. That's the one that I chose to do the waistband, was this beautiful felt-backed faux leather, worked up really nicely. And then finally we have the top rear panel. That one, in the video, I have a different accent fabric. It's another faux leather. It's also stretch. You can use whatever you want. I would suggest a contrast from the back and front panels, but if you don't want to buy a third material, you could easily use the waistband, corset, and belt loop fabric for this, and it will create the contrast that you're looking for. Now make sure you cut the right amount of pieces. You'll need one waistband piece. You can cut this out in one piece laid flat, or you can have the waistband and cut it on the fold. It's up to you. You're going to need 3 corset fly panel pieces, 2 for the corset fly and 1 for the backing. And then mirror image opposites, you're going to need 2 back panels, 2 front panels, and 2 rear top panels. And then cut as many belt loops as you like. I recommend at least 4. Now, I really enjoy getting all the little pieces out of the way so that when I get my bigger project going, I can just have at take your 2 corset fly pieces and put them right sides together. I've got mine shown by the shiny bit and the nice felt backing. And then we're going to put the pattern piece back over top of the 2, and we're going to poke through to the little line marked on it so that we know where to sew to. Pin and pin through the pattern right where the little crosshatch meets with the center line on the pattern piece. When you pin through, just transfer another pin so that you know where you are when you take the pattern piece off. Now sew a single stitch from the bottom point of the 2 corset fly panels to where you have your pin. Now we're going to take it and we're going to make the right sides outward. Right now we've got the wrong sides facing outward, so we're going to pull it apart, and right where we've sewn, we're going to use that as our fold line for each individual piece that's been sewn together, and we're going to continue that fold line all the way up to the top of each individual piece. And then you're going to pin or clip it in place like that. Now, it doesn't matter which side you start from. I prefer to start from the already sewn side, but you're going to sew a seam line just on the inside of each one of these fold lines, getting as close as you can to the fold, but sewing it shut. Now it's time to tackle all those little belt loops. Fold them so that they're about roughly an inch wide. Fold one side over and then the other. There should be enough so that the one side that's left will not quite reach the front of the other one. Sew a single stitch down each side of the belt loops, encasing all 3 layers each time. Repeat the same process for all 4 belt loops. And now it's on to the main event. The main thing you have to remember about the back panel and the top rear panel is to make sure that the large piece of the top rear panel and the point of the back panel are on the same side. Now, put right sides together and pin or clip in place. As we are working with stretch material, I almost exclusively use my serger in this video. However, you can use a regular sewing machine provided that you use a stretch stitch. Now, we want to top stitch the seams that we just sewed, but we're going to make sure that the seam is facing the right way on the back side. Turn the fabric towards the top rear panel so that the seam is folded upwards, and then top stitch with a double needle. Do the same thing to both panels. Now that we've got both back panels completed, we're going to put right sides together and we're going to sew from the crotch all the way up to the waist. Now we're going to open that baby up and top stitch the seam we just sewed. It doesn't matter which way you fold the seam on this one, but just pick a side and then top stitch with a double needle. It's time to add the front panels. I like to do this by laying out the back panels alongside so that I know which side I'm working with, and then I put right sides together, front panels aligned with the very straight edge of the back panels. And then you're going to pin or clip in place and sew them up. It's at this point here, when I'm at my serger, that I will notice the final length of my legs. If one is longer at the bottom than the other, I take this opportunity to serge the edge or just clean it up and make them straight so that when I sew up the inner seam, I'm not trying to do it at that point. What are we doing at this point, you might ask? Well, of course, yet again, we're top stitching. We're going to top stitch the seams that we just did with a double needle. Now it's time we put the front panels together. We're going to take both sides of our now sort of formed pants and we're going to put right sides together. We're going to sew from the bottom of the crotch front all the way up to where it will eventually meet with the waistband. Pin or clip in place as you choose. Now it's time for us to add the waistband. Fold the waistband lengthways, wrong sides together. Because our pants are inside out at the moment, we're going to take our folded piece of waistband and we're going to pin or clip it to what appears to be the inside of the piece of pants that we're working with. So you're going to pin it to the right side of the pants. If you happen to have any extra, don't fret, just cut it off. Now we sew along where we've pinned to adhere the waistband to the pants. We're going to use the fly piece that we assembled earlier as the pattern to cut out its portion of the pants. You can use the cutout paper pattern piece for this if you want. I actually much prefer using my actual fabric. We're at the bottom where the seam for the fly is. You're going to want to have that be about a 1/4 inch up onto the fabric for your 1/4 inch seam allowance there. And then anywhere between a 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch roughly overlapping onto the waistband and the top of the pants at the top. It's going to be different for everybody. I try and just make it straight. You want the top of the fly pieces to overtake the top waistband by about 1 inch to 1.5 inches, bigger for larger sizes and less for smaller sizes, and then cut out the pattern that it leaves on the pants. Keeping in mind we're going to be using a 1/4 inch seam allowance for this section. Take your fly piece that you've constructed earlier and align the bottom point seam that's closed with the front seam of the pants. They should be meeting with each other to keep the same line, like parallel. Pin or clip the right side of each front seam of the pants to one and the other side of the fly portion. Now sew along those lines, keeping in mind your 1/4 inch seam allowance. We are now going to top stitch the front crotch seam as well as both sides of the fly panel. What remains of the fly panel that sticks above the waistband, fold where it meets the waistband and tuck it under during the top stitching process. Before top stitching the fly panel to the pants, fold the seam toward the pants, then top stitch over top of the seam through the pants portion. Since we're top stitching, might as well do the waistband. Fold the waistband seam down toward the pants and stitch over the pants material through the seam. Add your belt loops literally wherever you'd like. I tend to space them kind of equally in the front and then equally but not center in the back because I hate sitting on a belt loop. Everybody's different. I made myself 4. You can make 5, however many you want. Put them wherever you want. I try and line them up so that the tops are meeting with the top of the waistband, and I always fold them under a little bit as well. And then top stitch them wherever you pinned them. You can do this with a double or a single needle. It's really up to you. Now is a good time to top stitch across the portion of the fly panel that we turned down. Top stitch right along the very top portion as close as you can to the edge. Time to add our grommets. I have a set here with all the tools that I need, including setter, mallet, hammer, and front and back portions of grommets. The size of the pants that you've made, as well as the size of the grommets that you've purchased, will determine the spacing between them and how many that you use. I've used a 1/4 inch inside diameter grommet with a 1/2 inch overall diameter, and I've chosen to place them 1 inch apart. That gives me very, very little space between them, less than 1/4 of an inch or no more than 5 millimeters. Create holes in your fabric where you've marked the appropriate size for your grommets. Now your grommets should be very, very snug inside their holes. You don't want a loose hole for your grommet. Your grommet's going to pop out and it's not going to be good at all. Make sure that they're very tight. Make sure to follow the manufacturer's instructions as to how to insert your grommets. Mine have a front and a back facing, so I'll be working from the back. Yours might be a little bit different. Each one will come with their different instructions, and make sure to follow them. We almost have a pair of pants. All that's left to do is put the backing portion on the fly and then close it up and hem the bottoms. Grab your backing piece and put it right behind the fly, exactly behind it. Pin one side in place and then sew along that portion, only closing up one side. We're going to finish off by doing a stabilizing stitch, kind of in a zigzag pattern, over top of the bottom portion of the fly into the fly backing. Finally, right sides together, sew up the inseam between both legs. Turn the finished edge of each pant leg toward the inside, roughly 3/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch if you like, whatever you prefer, and then top stitch along the inside finished seam with a double needle. Congratulations, you now have pants. Throw some cord in there so that they can be tied up and go wear them out.